Yes, I'm a steampunk time-traveling member of the League of Intrigue 2020, and thank you for your positive response to my presentation. 1,000 seconds is 17 minutes. 1,000,000 seconds is 11.5 days. 1,000,000,000 seconds, 32 years. 1,000,000,000,000 seconds, 32,000 years. What about the Earth? If we take a billiard ball and blow it up to the size of the Earth is smoother than the billiard ball. If we took a tennis ball and dipped it in water, the water on the tennis ball would equal the atmosphere around our Earth. How big is the Earth? Well, if we take 33 million people and wrap them around the equator 212 times, that would give us the circumference of the Earth. But the problem is 70% of them would drown. And in the curvature of the Earth, one of those heads bobbing up and down in the Pacific Ocean, the curvature would only allow them to see 1 mile from where they're bobbing up and down from their eye level. Now, if they got up on, that's 1.6 kilometers. So if they were on a surfboard, they could see 3 miles or 5 kilometers. And so how big is the Earth? Well, if we did a special drop down at terminal speed through a hole in the Earth, the diameter is 8,000 miles, it would take 2.5 days. And so the thing is, we have a question about the moon. We have the Earth here, and if it were a 9-inch basketball, how big would the moon be? Just make a little thing with your hand to see how big you think it would be compared to the Earth. Okay? The moon would be about the size of a tennis ball. Now the question is, how far is the moon from the Earth? Well, is it a yard or a meter? 2 meters? No. It's 7 meters or 8 yards. And with the lady hold up the ball, that's where the moon would be compared to the Earth. We could put all of the planets in between the Earth and the moon. They would fit. So we cannot put a solar system to scale in the classroom. In order to do that, we'd have to shrink the sun down to the size of a marble. Jupiter would be the size of a peppercorn or half a grain of rice. We couldn't see the inner planets or Pluto. They would be invisible. So it's impractical. And so they would be pinpoints, the other planets. So what we have to do is we have to look at the fact that Pluto is so small, many of you don't realize that it's smaller than the moon by 2/3. That's why it got degraded to a dwarf planet. Anyway, so to get an idea of the distance, we know that from the sun to the Earth it's 8 minutes. To the moon, it's 1 second, the speed of light. To Pluto, it takes 5 hours. Everything is much bigger than we think because the illustrations have been misleading, okay? Even the asteroid belt, the movies and everything have blown that up. There's only 4 asteroids that consist of half the mass of the asteroid belt. And the average distance between all those asteroids is twice the distance of Earth to the moon. They're so spread out, NASA doesn't even worry about them. Now, how many stars are there in the sky? Well, remember, it's not a shell where all the stars are. They look pretty compact, but some of them are millions of light years away. So we're just seeing all this coming in. It looks like they're pretty impacted, but they're very spread out. In a couple of billion years, the Andromeda galaxy is going to encounter the Milky Way galaxy. But the stars are so far apart from each other, there will be no collisions. So, how many stars are there? On a moonless night, in the dark, in the country, without the pollution, we only see less than 5,000 stars. Okay? Now, okay, here we go. Now we get to the atomic world. It's very small. If we take an atom, the proton, the size of a pea, and we don't have this orbit of an electron, it's a shell. So we take a pea and put it in the middle of the Rose Bowl. The auditorium, the seats, that's where the electron shell would be as far as from the proton. And if we condense all that space of the Earth, take all the space out, the Earth would be the size of a tennis ball. But atoms are very numerous and very small. If we take the number of molecules in 1 teaspoon of seawater, there are more molecules in the seawater than there are liters of all the oceans in the world. And the atoms of salt in NaCl would also equal that. And there's 1 million phytoplankton in that teaspoon. So to reiterate one more time, if we had $1,000, it would look like this if we stacked it up. If we had $1 million, it would fall over. So we have to lay it out. And it's about 200 yards. And if we were going freeway speed, it would take 7 seconds. But if we had $1 billion lined up, it would take, at freeway speed, 5 days. And 1 trillion would be night and day. It would take over 13 and a half years to pass it. So the numbers are very misleading. Thank you.
Thank you.